Hello, my name is John Gould. I am a clinical professor at Drexel University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I am in a school of education and primarily teach in the EDD program for educational leadership and change. So the purpose of this short video is to give you a sense of a course that I teach called Creativity and Leadership. And it is a course that is designed to help leaders to understand how creativity can help them within their organizations, whether they be school districts, NGOs, or a business organization. So I am going to share with you what took place this last weekend in our prototyping activities for the class. But before I do that, I just want to give you a quick overview of what the students have been going through over the last 25 weeks as they entered into this EDD program. And they started out by understanding systems thinking. We exposed them to the work of Peter Senge at MIT, Heifetz and Linsky, Leadership on the Line, Russell Acost's work on turning education right side up, and also Michael Fullen's work on change. And so the iceberg became a very important model for them in understanding on how to do a deeper dive into understanding why events take place within their organization. And that the more they can go deeper into that reason, starting with patterns and trends, and understanding how that helps them to understand the patterns of behaviors and relationships within the organization, to also understand systemic structures, because structures shape the behavior of how people act in most organizations, and to understand what they are, what they look like. So for example, in a school, it can be the contractual arrangement, it can be the policies, it can be the schedule of a day. But more importantly is to get down to the level of mental models, which basically are the assumptions that are driving the organization and the habits of action that you habitually see taking place. And so when you have an understanding of these, it does give you a lot of leverage. Then on top of that, the next course that they go into is beginning to understand the you, based on the work of Otto Scharmer at MIT and utilizing theory U. And why we utilize this is really to develop an understanding of what generative listening is, and to be able to create a sense of coming together in order to let go of old patterns of behavior that really do not work anymore, and to allow, as Otto calls, a presencing, letting come, to begin to emerge from that ability to generate true dialogue. Understanding that the concept of an open mind, an open heart, and an open will are critical components in doing that. So the second 10 weeks, they dive into Theory U to help them to truly develop the sense of how to listen and to get other people to listen, to allow a future to emerge. And now, over the next 10 weeks, they are exposed to the idea of design thinking based off of the IDEO process, the work of David Kelly, Tim Brown, etc., so that they can begin to explore the possibilities of creating new environments. So this is the process and the framework over a 30-week period of time that these doctoral students are involved in. So with that, then, the purpose really is to develop a journey in 10 weeks to begin to understand why divergent and convergent thinking is very important in terms of the leadership role, particularly in a time of great global transition that's taking place on this planet. And then also to help students to begin to explore and develop a deeper set of assumptions about creativity and why it's important to understand its process in leadership development. And then finally, really to develop the skill sets using this design studio process and design thinking to explore how we can create new learning environments, new learning spaces for the 21st century. So the structure of the class is the use of design teams. And so for 10 weeks in this particular class this quarter, we have 2 teams of 5 students each that are focused on this essential question, how do we create new learning environments? And also to look at it from the point of view of sustainability, that we're going to help students be able to develop the skills necessary to live in a sustainable lifestyle, both from an ecological and an economic point of view. And then finally, this process then through the collaborative teams is to allow them to begin to understand design thinking and allow them to understand it from the point of view that it is a transforming skill that leaders need to know, but more importantly, to give them skills to begin to explore the use of prototyping, particularly within their own environments. So that is the process, and to look at the design flow of this process, so over the first 3 weeks, they spent time doing examination of a lot of things going on in the environment. So they looked at Wall Street Journal's yearly presentation by leading thinkers in different sectors about the future, whether it be in education, medicine, entertainment, whatever you have, to begin to explore those things. They also spent some time looking at Young Zhao's work on what a world-class learner is, to begin to think about what has to happen in terms of how we design curriculum, the pedagogy, and the types of assessments that are needed for the development of learning in the 21st century, particularly based upon entrepreneurship. And it also exposed them to the book, The Second Machine Age, which is an extremely important concept to begin to think about as automation and technology begins to integrate into this concept of what learning is going to be about. And also you see VOJ, VOC, and VOF. This comes out of Otto Scharmer's work, that we need to understand how the voice of fear, the voice of cynicism, and the voice of judgment blocks many times the possibilities of letting new ideas about the future come into play. We also use his divides as a way of thinking about the type of curriculums that need to develop. And the 3 divides he talks about is us with nature, us with others, and us to ourselves. And I've added a new one that I think is extremely important given the second machine age, is self to technology. So in the 4th week then, they move into really beginning to solidify what they are thinking about developing. They talk to other people, they try out their ideas. And so this last Saturday, they then developed their prototyping for new schools. They began to test their ideas by really using their hands, and they were thinking with their hands, and you'll see that in a couple minutes. And then that's going to lead into the next 4 weeks, looking at designing and then performing what this is going to be. So this is the process that our students are exposed to, and it's one that we're getting a lot of good positive feedback over time, that this seems to really develop a sense of understanding on what we need to do. So first of all, each team developed a challenge. Here's team 1. You can see it's urban and educational framework, because you need to remember that this particular group of students, they are all special education teachers or administrators in either the Philadelphia School District or Washington, D.C. So that's important to look at this in that context. But you can see what Team 1's looking at, that they're looking at this idea of looking at the psychological and the social and the academic and physical aspects of what childhood is about, and to create an environment that is going to work upon the students' aptitudes and their interests and stimulate lifelong learning. Team 2's idea was, again, they want to create an inclusive school and a learning community that really focuses on developing the learner's strengths, not focusing so much on their deficits, but developing their own strengths in order to create a very positive environment so that students learn how to impact their communities and, as they say, as citizens in a global society. So what I'm going to show you is some activities so you can get a sense of them working together with this particular little slideshow. So here's the tools that they're using. I took them back to kindergarten and first grade to begin to play with these tools. We used 10 Faces of Innovation, Tom Kelly, Change by Design, Tim Brown, out of IDEO. These became their points. But again, we wanted to use manipulatives, hands-on material so they can explore their ideas. And here's Team 1 beginning the process, integrating and talking to each other. Team 2 looking at beginning to spell out what their vision is going to be, to have that as the driver. Again, back to Team 1, beginning to draw conceptually what a possible learning environment might look like. And here is the challenge statement. And there you see the conversation, listening to each other, not criticizing, allowing ideas to begin to emerge, taking those ideas, visualizing them, putting them in that situation to be able to understand patterns, new patterns of relationships, continuing the dialogue, moving these around, finding new ideas. All ideas are important when you're doing prototyping. Now, Team 1 begins to explore with the manipulatives, beginning to say, here's how we're beginning to visualize what our learning environment might be, what a prototype might look like, discussing how do we utilize these ideas to create the concept of what our three-dimensional model of what we believe our school might become in the future. Thinking with your hands, expressing ideas non-linguistically. Looking at things from different points of view, exploring other ideas. And then allowing the prototypes to begin to take shape. Sharing, talking, allowing all types of ideas to begin to emerge. Here, Team 1 is beginning to really take shape. Team 2, still exploring how we can build a representation of what we believe. You can see pedagogy and the different approaches that they're looking at. So this is the process of what prototyping is about. Getting people to interact with ideas by thinking with their hands. And now I'm going to show you some clips of their presentations. This is Team 1's.
Our prototype is basically a design of a developing school system. And we put it in terms of a developing school system because it's fluid and according to students and according to the collective individual needs and the collective needs. So our challenge was to structure a system of learning, structure a globally sustainable curriculum that allows students to make contributions to their communities, tackle worldwide problems, and learn to create streams of income. The learning program will evolve according to the individual collective needs, innovative practices, global patterns, and research funding.
Okay. So our school was designed to fully implement or incorporate collaborative learning. So the school is completely circular. There are no square spaces. So each corner, we have our learning hubs in these corners. So these are the spaces where the teacher is a little more teacher directed, and we're still hoping to have teacher directed / facilitator. But this is where the most structure would take place inside of the learning hubs. Inside of the learning hubs, again, when we talk about the space, the design, again, is circular. Students will be seated circularly around the classroom. We also have, based upon research with males and students with disabilities such as ADHD, who have a difficult time seating or sitting for a long period of time. So we incorporated the podiums. So these are our podiums here.
Similar to this, it would be like a standing desk.
Different classrooms every time we move up in the grade level. So they'll teach their cohorts a specific skill. So in this case, we'll have a student teach a cohort how to knit. They'll come up with not just learning that specific skill, but they'll also develop a marketing plan, and they're going to sell their products as well. So homemade products are usually sold on Etsy, so they'll develop a way that they can reach out to someone at Etsy and sell their products on Etsy as well as in the school. So these are our exhibition spaces, or our exhibition wall, and this again will have product displays that the students actually create. And we'll also have solutions to problems that the students have worked on, all posted again in the exhibition space. We have seating areas in our common area. So again, this is the student teaching spaces surrounded by common areas where there's benches for the students to sit down and do more collaboration. In this area, again, rounded glass, this is our courtyard area. In this area, the students are going to grow vegetables and fruits that they, again, can sell in the community. On specific days, this is table.
And now here is the clip of Team 2's prototype presentation.
Similar model to you guys in the sense that we are building a sustainable school within the city. And so we wanted to give you an overview of obviously our mission and vision statement, and then specifically what do we believe as the architects of this school concept. So our mission statement is that we want to create an inclusive school learning community that instills a growth mindset, develops student strength, and expands their capabilities as everyone works collaboratively in order to develop one another's fullest potential, surmounting challenges, and positively impacting communities as citizens in a global society. And so in a tangible perspective, what does that actually mean for us as we develop this school? We believe in the theory of multiple intelligences. No child learns the same as every other child. And so how do we take Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences and integrate that throughout this school's concept? And so you'll see as we delve more into the actual meat of the presentation that we recognize all of the different learning styles of every child who attends. We also believe that students are going to take accountability for their learning. The students are in the driver's seat of their education. Some other important points that we recognize, again, the unique elements of every child. Another important theme is the power of human relationships. So we talk a little bit about how can human relationships exist as we move forward in this technologically advanced society. And so our vision is that we integrate those two rather than remaining as siloed concepts. And so you'll see the strong community connections, particularly with individuals.
School, I think it's important to talk about our process of developing this. So we are trying to address and possibly go in a different direction from what the traditional school model looks like. One of the questions that we thought about as we were developing this is we were looking at the whole model of K through 12 learning and the way in our traditional public school model of the way that kids are learning as elementary school. And then they had this idea where discovery takes place and they're learning in kids' stations and the whole nine. And then by the time they get to middle school and high school, it's almost like they're just kidding. The way you learned in elementary school, we're going to change that whole model up. So we thought that this model, what it would look like, it would be a K through 12 learning model, where the same discovery and the same way that kids are learning in the early years would continue on throughout the course of their 12 to 13 years of school.
So we kind of almost took like the airport model of how the building would be structured. We were thinking that we called it the hub. As we kept talking, we had a lot of feedback in regards to, we wanted to make the building very much accessible to the community. So that the community doesn't feel like, I don't know if you guys feel it, but sometimes a new building pops up in an urban area, like it might pop up in an urban area, and a certain population feels like, yeah, I have access to another population just kind of freaked out about, you know, fancy building, am I even allowed to go into it? So we wanted, one of the words that came up was access. We wanted people to feel like they can access it, you know, no matter who you are, where you're from, what your background is. We even talked about people who may be, you know, have had a criminal record. They can access the spot as well. So, you know, I think we talked about K through 12 as well, but almost, you know, even if adults need to access the space to learn as well, like whenever you're ready, you have access to it, or, you know, definitely our little people are going to come in. But, you know, what everyone should have this learning space. It's almost a community center model, but definitely the learning component. Launch learning is kind of where it kind of starts here. So it's almost like a community center where they can kind of walk in. We were still a little stuck on like kind of compartmentalizing spaces. So if you guys have any feedback about how we should structure it so it doesn't look too schooly. But the walkway where people can, students or, you know, whoever, or like students in this area and community can come this way. To walk into this open space, can have breakfast. But the big thing is kind of where our content is they have this departure board where they get to see what your kind of itinerary for the day is. And there's this essential question where, you know, I think we were starting to use the idea of like, you know, we're talking about sustainable community. Like for instance, the essential question might be related to recycling water. We're going to do a lot of tiering kind of instruction, almost developmentally, no really clear, you know, inclination of, oh, you're this age, you have to be with this group, but more or less you're kind of in this mindset, so you're going to kind of be with this group. Almost like tiering it, so like, you know, the little people are kind of really egocentric, you're trying to learn how to share, where you're trying to learn how to deal with your family, versus like middle school are kind of learning, okay, community, and then your upper kids are kind of learning like world. So let me get back to it. They're seeing the departure board, they're seeing what they have to do for the day. They even might have like an iPad where some of the information is coming, the parents can access it.
So what you've just seen is some glimpses of their presentation to their colleagues. And what is important about this process then, and why they were doing this, is to receive feedback from the other team, to help them to think about the ideas as they were being received by other people, and to get feedback on suggestions on how to maybe make it better, or to maybe not do one thing but focus on another. So this is a very important process related to the prototyping activity, is to get feedback to help the team to continue to advance and to learn. And the important thing here is it's not a competition with another team, it's a collaborative process to help to nurture different possibilities of what schools can be like in the future. So what we're now going to be moving towards is embodying the comments that they've gotten, and then move towards creating a final product of what their school is going to be. And so when you look at Otto Scharmer's Theory U from the U Lab, we've gone through the presencing process. They have let come the ideas, they've crystallized their vision and their intention through the challenge, and they were enacting through prototyping. And if you listen to what they were saying, you got sense of linking head, heart, and hands. So I'm hoping that within the next 4 weeks, when we put up the final product, that you will watch these and also interact with the class in terms of your ideas and your thinking. And if you want to interact with me, you can reach me at my email at Drexel, which is jmg97@drexel.edu. So I hope this short video helped you to get a sense of what the prototyping activity is within this program, which is designed to teach these leaders to utilize this tool within their environments so that we can let go of those things that are not working and to let come great possibilities for the future. So thank you very much.